Welcome to Soundbreaker. In today's episode, we're talking to Shea Fisher, who is singer, songwriter, and an artist, obviously. Thanks for joining us, Shay. For our listeners who might not
Abs-
be familiar with you, if you want to give
yeah.
us a brief, a brief introduction about yourself, and pleasure to have you on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm Shay. I'm originally from Australia. I grew up in a rodeo family. My parents are both Australian champion rodeo athletes, so I did not grow up in the musical world. However, when I was 9 years old, my family moved to the US and we lived in Texas for a while. And my dad rode bulls on the PBR World Tour. So obviously that was the 90s, and we all know the 90s is amazing music. And I really started to fall in love with music then. When I moved home to Australia, um, music wasn't as big there, but I loved singing. So I started entering talent quests. I was probably 13 or 14 at this time, but I didn't win. They said I sounded different. I looked different. All the reasons. But ironically, my parents had really built into me from a young age that it's okay to fail. And even at that age, I was like, well, me being different, that means that I'm not the same as everybody else. So I'm going to keep pursuing this idea of singing. So I started singing the national anthem at rodeos, and I would be competing, and then I would sing the anthem on horseback. And then when I was 14 years old, there was a performer at a big rodeo, big old tour bus. Obviously, security was way less back then. So I went up and I knocked on his tour bus door and I was like, hey, I'm Shay. Do you have an opening act? And he was like, you know what? My support act got sick, so I don't have one. He asked me if I had a band. I said, nope, I have karaoke tracks. So he put me on stage 2 hours before he performed. There was three people in the audience, and two were my mother and my father. And then after that, he asked my parents if I could join his Australian tour. And, for one thing led to another. He became my manager. We wrote my first album together. At 16, I signed a recording contract in Australia. And I was this rodeo cowgirl that would sing on stage with my hat and my boots. Um, it was a bit of a whirlwind because it's not what I grew up in, that industry, but I was just so blessed. My first album, I had four number one songs off, which is just crazy because I will say myself, I am not a Carrie Underwood singer. But I guess my music just really resonated with, those younger country girls, and it just made sense to them.
So, being in Texas or in the South, did that influence your music direction
Oh,
on
100%.
the type of
Yes.
music that you adapted to, and yes, you feel you connected with, and all of that?
Oh, for sure. I mean, honestly, everything came from when I lived in Texas as a little girl. The 90s countries was always, when I would songwrite, I would definitely be reflecting on those songs I was hearing in back when I was living in Texas. So, I mean, 100%. Obviously, I was an Aussie girl with an Australian accent, but I sung with a very strong twang because I was singing alongside Ariba and Shania and Garth Brooks and all these singers. So, yeah, for sure.
Well, let's talk about some of your success. You had six number one hits in Australia early
Hmm.
on of
Yeah.
your career. Yes,
Yeah.
please tell us
So,
about that.
yeah, so that first album I had out, I had four number one songs off it. And like I said, it was just a whirlwind. I'm not gonna lie. I was just a country girl that had no clue what was going on. And um my music just resonated, and I was blessed to get on the right tours. And I was finishing high school while trying to have a music career and headlining tours. And um, obviously, I always dreamed of signing a record deal in the US. I didn't know how that would happen, but I was actually at a rodeo and my phone called, and it was an American number. And when I answered it, it was a record label in the US calling me, asking me if I would want to come over and meet with this record label. And they had heard my music because we recorded everything in Nashville, even though I was releasing in Australia. So they had heard it in the studio. So I literally, at 20 years old, flew to the US, met with the record label. They said, well, in 2 weeks, we want to sign you. So you need to be back with your band and move your life. So obviously that was like, oh my gosh, now what? So I packed up my world, and including my band, and we all moved to Nashville. My manager came alongside as well. So it was me and 7 guys renting a house, doing radio tour. Um, I was back and forth to Australia releasing singles, and that's when I had 2 more #1 songs. But, you know, for me, it was such a roller coaster that first 6 years in the industry, and everything seemed to be going to plan. However, when I was releasing my first song here in the States, um, my song was getting added. I was having great success, and my record label shut down. I literally remember getting the phone call from the label being like, hey,
Wow.
yeah. So my song was the third highest song added for 3 weeks in a row in the US. And then my record label had some stuff happen financially and literally closed their doors. But for me, I was
Can
stuck
we
in a
ask
record.
what's the name of the label,
Yeah.
if you don't mind?
It was, yeah, for sure. It was called
Yeah.
Stradivarius. It was called Stradivarius, and James Stroud ran the label. Ronnie Gillies was
Mm.
the head, the funder. Um, so there was myself and Low Cash Cowboys and lots of artists on this label, and we couldn't then go and get a new record deal because we were still under contract with this label, even though they were shut down. So it was a very
You weren't
hard.
released. Yeah.
It was just really hard because I was sitting in Nashville, not being able to do anything towards my career, trying to decide, do I go home to
In limbo.
Australia?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I really chose to stay in Nashville, and it's like, I'm going to dig into my songwriting. I'm going to see what doors open next. I then started our businesses that now do really well. I knew I knew it was going to cost me $30,000 a year to live in Nashville. So I started a belt buckle company. And I remember the first year I literally make $30,000 and I could survive. Um, but I was back and forth to Texas a lot because I just felt like Texas was it felt more like home, how I grew up in Australia on the land. So I was back and forth a lot. When I moved to Texas, I met my husband, who's a world champion rodeo athlete. And I just kind of stepped aside for a few years from the industry. I still was songwriting, obviously, but I felt a little bit bitter, to be honest, on the industry because I felt like my opportunity was stripped from me unfairly. And I was watching all of my friends skyrocket to #1, and I'm like, that should be me. So it was very hard. It was a tough pill to swallow, but probably just because I had so much success so young, so quickly. I thought that that's how my career was going to be forever, and it just wasn't. But I look back now and I'm like, man, it actually was a blessing. um it allowed me to do other chapters in my life, like have my family, help my husband win a world title in rodeo, create our businesses that do very well. And then I feel like now I'm at a point in my life that I can step back into the music industry. And honestly, I don't even want a record label again. I I did it for 15 years and I was told what to say, what to do, what to wear. I didn't get the creative choice of what my career looked like. So this time around, it's nice because I get to make those calls, and I just have never had that opportunity. So it is really exciting for me.
Shay, would you say that the record company closing out, would that be your biggest setback? And obviously, you turn it to a positive thing. You turn it to becoming an independent entrepreneur, an independent songwriter, and finding ways, picking up and getting yourself back on the saddle again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely the biggest setback I had had, and probably the hardest setback because I was halfway around the world by myself at 21 years old trying to figure out what next. I didn't have a partner in life. I was just a young girl. I was responsible for 5 band members as well, and having to send them home to Australia when I could no longer pay their bills. That was a tough pill to swallow, for me personally. But that's the thing. I mean, I just knew that the doors didn't open in the US for no reason, that I needed to stay here and that there was more. So I just feel like we go through seasons of life. We go through I mean, I was as high as I could be, red carpets, TV shows, all this stuff. But one thing I realized is I really my self-worth came from how many number one songs I had and who knew my name at radio. But I realized that until I could see that there's more to life than that, I wasn't going to get back into the industry. And I just found like at that point when I was content with who I was as a person, I was like, now I'm ready to face this again because, there's it's a lot more than people see. Obviously I'm sure but there's a lot more than just what meets the eye with, these type of industries and the pressure and social media is great, but I'm not going to lie, people are very opinionated. Um, but you
Always.
just,
People always
yeah,
quick to judge. Quick to judge.
yeah, you just have to not care. You have to just know who you are. Obviously, for me, I know I'm not 16. I know I'm not in my prime that I was, but I also feel like I am showing people there's no time like the present. Doesn't matter how young or how old you are. It doesn't matter if you're a mom or not a mom. Like if you have a dream and a goal, like you can still do it. So um, I feel like I'm at the best place in my life and my career, even though I haven't had a number one in the last 5 years. But I just feel very confident in the music I'm releasing now and that I'm able to relate to people a lot more.
Well, I mean, I have to say, a lot of artists, I've been in the business for 30 years in the music business, in the distribution. So I do come across a lot of artists. And you were at a point where almost lost everything and walked away from it, but you managed not to. And that's
Mhm.
a very, very, I would say, unique quality. And, it shows your true love and passion for what do you do and the strength. And obviously, it's very inspiring for other artists out there to learn from your journey and what you went through. I mean, before anything else, you're an artist, you're a writer, you're very passionate about what do you do. You're a great singer. So, on top of that, you're a wife, a mom, and an entrepreneur. So you have so many hats you wear, and which is really incredible. I
Thank
would
you.
say yes. What advice you have out there for other young artists who are starting up, who are struggling, who are coming across, I would say, pretty much bumps on the road.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a few things that I would say is it's okay to be different because if you're like everybody else, the world doesn't need another Taylor Swift. The world doesn't need another Ed Sheeran. There's already one of those. So I just feel like it is okay to be different and unique and, to walk to your own drum. Like, really, that's one thing I realized at a young age is being unique is what makes you you. When I signed my record deal in the US, they made me drop my cowgirl hat and take off my boots and trade it for high heels. And I'm like, do y'all not know I can't walk in these things? Like, this is not this cowgirl. But I was so young. Um, I just felt like I needed to do what they wanted me to do. But I look back now and I'm like, if I could have stayed unique in who I was, I really do feel like it would have helped me in the long run. But as a young artist, you just got to be careful whose opinion you ask because it will change your songwriting, it will change what you do. And, most importantly, with your songwriting, it's write about things you can relate to because there's so many people out there that can relate to what you can. I remember with my second album I released, my record label were like, well, you need 5 great hits and then the rest of the songs can be fillers. So these are the songs we want. And I'm like, why didn't I just say, no, these songs don't relate to me. I want these songs on my album because this is portraying who I am. So be okay to stand up for yourself as an artist. Um, be okay with being different and know that you are going to fail. And if you don't fail, well, I would love to know your trick because I have failed so many times in life. But it's about how you pick yourself up. And normally, the momentum you can get from failure can be incredible. I loved proving people wrong in the industry, and if people said I couldn't do it, oh my gosh, it made me work so much harder, honestly.
Well, pretty interesting. What's next for Shay? upcoming
Lots.
albums.
Yeah.
Please share it with our audience
Yes.
here at Soundbreaker. We would love to know.
So I'm the type of personality, if I'm going to be back in something, I'm going to be all in. So I actually, when I was going to shoot one music video for Take Me Back to Texas, I actually shot three music videos in the same 2 weeks. So I have three music videos, three singles to come out this year. Obviously, Take Me Back to Texas is doing really well on the Australian radio chart. So we're going to wait till it charts its highest point, and then once it comes off the charts, we'll release the follow-up song. Um, I'm really excited about these singles. The next song I actually wrote with Walker Hayes, a great friend, and obviously he's had his own ups and downs in the industry as well. But three songs, and then hopefully by the end of the year, the album will come out. I have a lot of singles and songs that I've written over the years. I've just been waiting. So between that and then my husband did so my husband's world champion rodeo athlete. He retired 2 years ago, and then he unretired. So he's now trying to make the our World Series rodeo in Las Vegas in December. So we will be all over between me doing shows, traveling America, and then
Amazing.
Tyson rodeoing. Thankfully, our children are very casual and love to travel because we will be bouncing all over the U.S. But you know what? You live once and you just don't know what tomorrow holds. So, we make it
And
work.
enjoy life. Yes. Are you self-distributed now?
I am, which
Amazing.
honestly, um, it was a
It's
whole learning.
liberated. It's
It is. It was such a
liberated.
learning curve for me though, because I was like,
Yes.
what do I do? But honestly, the way the streaming is in today's time has made it so much easier. Obviously, when I was
Yes.
releasing music at 16, it was albums in stores. But
Yes.
now any artist can put their music on TuneCore and get it in all the streaming platforms.
Yes. Yes.
I obviously have PR teams and other people helping, but yeah, it is liberating. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. I'm in
Yes.
control. It's almost like you get to choose your own destiny because people don't realize when you get a record deal, you don't see a lot of money for a lot of years because you're paying
Well,
back a lot of money.
let me tell you something. You are actually, the timing couldn't be better for you and for everybody else, for every great artist out there or independent artist. This is the era right now that I've been witnessing and speaking
Hmm.
to a lot of. I contribute to that also because I a big fan of empowering artists, and
Hmm.
every so many artists right now, nobody wants deals, everybody wants to be independent, and there's so many ways right now, from distribution to promotion to marketing. Everybody now focusing on management. It's like, all I need is just a great manager, and everything else I do myself. Management
Yeah.
that's evolved in promotion and marketing, and the
Hmm.
rest, it's all in the artist's hands. Nobody wants
Yeah.
to be signed up to anybody. Everybody wants to earn their money themselves, want the money come direct to their bank account, book their own
Hmm.
gigs. And there's, with technology and AI and every so many platform available out there,
Hmm.
life is much easier and better. And giving the artist, I would say, the giving him the seat in the driver, giving him
Hmm.
actually to be in the driver's seat anymore. No
Oh
one, they
yeah.
don't want to be driven. It's like, you know what,
Yeah.
I dictate my destiny. I
Hmm.
kind of control where I want to go and how fast I want to go and where I'm going. you know and because of that, I said, you know what, artists, the business always looked at artists as the I said it on other podcasts on Soundbreaker, that the industry looked at artists as cash cow. I said, no, the industry should be the cash cow, not the artist, because without artists we have no industry.
Yeah. Yeah. Those
Yes.
those are very true words. So well
Yes.
said. That's the thing. It just takes a good team around you, and
Yes.
um,
Yes.
I guess obviously the industry is changing and ever evolving, but social media makes the world so small. Even with my Australian following, I can still be in the US and promoting and doing things in Australia. So it is,
100%.
yeah, it is an exciting time. For me, it's the industries also came back around to more women. Obviously, when I was releasing, when I first moved to the States, it was a very male driven industry, country music, but it's starting to turn. It's kind of the women, there's a lot more girls getting played at radio. There's just a lot more women coming back in, which again, that's exciting because I remember the conversations with my label like, hey, this is going to be hard to break through because there's only going to be two out of every, 100 artists are going to be women. So, yeah, we'll see. Hopefully it's a great year.
What do you would like to see any changes in the music industry that you'd like to see from an
Um,
artist's point of view?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different things. I think that in the industry, I feel like I would like it to be easier for artists to be able to break onto radio here in the States. Radio is a really hard ball game in the States. You really have to have a lot of organic traction to be able to be looked at by a radio station, or you need to be willing to live on the road for a year, visiting every radio station, buying them dinners and saying the right things, making everybody feel special. And I just really think a great song is a great song. And I wish there was other ways that those stations were getting it. Now, I do know that Sirius XM is doing the highway find and things like that,
You say in
but
more genuine ways.
it's still political. And
Yes.
it is what it is. I mean, it always has been. So I feel like the industry is changing in a great way. I feel like it'll be great once the radio kind of catches up a little bit. I feel like when I personally stream music, I'm always playing the new artist playlist because I'm like, I've never even heard of this person. This is so cool. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful for Spotify and things like that because that's really the only way you're hearing about these new artists, or through social media.
Well, I mean, do you think the radio still have that much influence in the industry as an artist?
Um, I think your Sirius XM does, but when
You
I
mean
was talking
social
to
media? Like,
No, no. I mean, I was talking to one of my friends who's a manager of Garth Brooks, and he was saying to me that right now everything is about streaming. It's about getting those streams up. He said it doesn't matter if you have a record deal, if you've got your streams up, you're going to get on tour. If people know you, they want you to hear your song, you're going to get booked on big tour and opening acts. And so for my focus, it's about getting people to stream the music. My hardest thing I deal with is I have quite a strong following on social media. So a lot of my followers will go to my social media to watch the music video and listen to the song rather
mm,
than finding it on Spotify because they're like, oh, we'll listen to it and watch the video at the same time. So I'm trying to transfer. I'm like, hey, all you 700,000 people that have listened to the song on Instagram, you want to go over to like the streaming and do it as well? So it's just kind of riding that fine line between giving your followers what they want to hear on your social media, but also allowing
you
them
want
to
to
like, hey,
you want to
you still
translate all of that to streaming.
it has
Yes.
to. So that's my
Yes.
tricky thing. But
I mean,
it's all.
sometime, yes. I mean, sometime I would say having something viral with videos on beside Instagram Reels and Shorts, obviously TikTok. I mean,
Hmm.
TikTok is responsible for breaking a lot of artists on a lot of records and
Yeah.
bringing back records from the past also.
For sure. Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah.
100%. Yep, 100%. But we live our lives just very, very interesting because with the rodeo lifestyle that we live, and we're traveling a lot at rodeos. So my goal is to be able to make my musical side meet with Tyson's rodeo. There's a huge event in Nashville coming up the end of May, so obviously I'm performing around the rodeo, just trying to tie it all in to make sense. But it's been working so far. So we'll see how we keep juggling it all.
Shea Fisher, really, it was a pleasure having you on Soundbreaker. And so I guess for any fans out there and people who would love to hear your music, they'll find it on Spotify and all the streaming platforms. Am I
Hmm.
correct?
They will, yes. I would
Yes.
love them to go there, but if they want to know more about our family and what I do and follow myself, have lots of different things going on. I do have Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, all the stuff. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. I've actually really enjoyed chatting with you. It's been really fun.
Well, Shay, it's a pleasure having you here. Would love to have you again. And all the best of luck to you, your husband, and to your career out there, because I think you're doing great and you're great inspiration for all the young artists and upcoming artists out there that, you cannot just give up. You just got to continue, follow your heart and your passion.
Yeah.
Shay Fisher, pleasure having you again.
Thank you. I
This
appreciate
concludes
you.
my pleasure. This concludes today's episode of Soundbreaker. Please make sure to follow us on socials and stay tuned to our next episode. See you and thanks again.
Bye.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to share the Soundbreaker podcast. And if you are joining us on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.